Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is 5:03 on January 16th. We are reconvening to open session. We don't have anything to report from our closed session. Our highlights tonight. This meeting is recorded for live streaming and archiving on the district YouTube channel for your convenience. If we can have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mark Maselli, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Maselli. Today we have Victoria Blackman from, sorry. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
And a second, please?
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now to students' reports. Hi, Victoria. Would you like to report out?
Good evening, President Grubbs, Superintendent Dr. Wright, fellow trustees, and cabinet members. Happy New Year to everyone. We have several new students that have transferred to our school, and we want to welcome them to Liberty High School. We want to give a big congratulations to our early grads. We have 5 students that have graduated early, and we wish them the best of luck. We have a busy start to the new semester. We are celebrating the Lunar New Year with new art projects, learning about cultural preservation, and exploring how the holiday manifests differently across diverse communities. Liberty is partnering again with UC Davis in their new Spinning Salmon project this year. We have been provided an aquarium and salmon eggs, and for the past 2 months, we have been monitoring their growth and collecting data. The project is to help support the depleting salmon populations. In the next couple of weeks, we will be releasing our new hatchling into the Sacramento River. Next week, we will be visiting Cal Academy of Science. We are learning how the academy is working to regenerate the natural world. We hope to visit the colony of African penguins and their famous albino alligators, Claude. Lastly, in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr. and his call to the service, our leadership class is organizing a blanket and towel drive to support the Humane Society of the North Bay. We will be collecting new or gently used blankets, leashes, towels, and collars. If anyone would like to donate, please contact our main office. On behalf of Liberty High School, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And our representative from Benicia High.
Hello, President Grubbs and fellow council members. My name is Isabella, representing Benicia High School. In the past weeks, we had Semester 1 finals. Before that, leadership hosted Wellness Week to help people de-stress and prepare for finals. For many students, this was their first finals week ever, and it went smoothly. We also had winter break. This week is the second week back after winter break. Many students are still getting back into the swing of things, and for some students, they started new classes. Freshmen have semester-long electives, so they got new classes, as well as seniors with their Gov and Econ classes. Leadership has the intramural dodgeball tournament this week at lunch. Students are able to create their own teams with their friends and play against other classmates. Auditions are happening for the upcoming musical, The Addams Family. Today was the elective fair where students got to see and ask about electives they're interested in or any other ones the school may offer. In addition, tonight we have our open house, which will allow students to see future classes that they can take and for parents to learn about AP classes and things like that. And the rest of leadership will be there wearing our blue, so in case you need help finding anything, we'll be there. In the upcoming weeks, students in grades 8 through 11 will be able to choose their classes next week and plan out their schedules. The spring musical will start rehearsing and begin planning their show. Leadership is planning the Winter Rally, which will be on January 31st. And we are also planning the Clash of the Classes, which is going to be a new tournament against the classes where the winner will be announced at the rally. On behalf of Benicia High School, thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Isabella. And then we come to Superintendent Dr. Wright's report.
All right, good evening. I just want to start my report off by thanking our governing board for the January 11th board study session. I thought it went really well. Anytime you have an opportunity to do governance training, there was a lot of collaboration and learning, reviewing our strategic plan goals. I think it's critical to move our organization forward, and I just thought it was a good day. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to watch the Unified Games at Benicia High School. If you're not familiar with Unified Sports, it's where some of our students with disabilities collaborate with students without disabilities, and they engage in athletic competition. So yesterday it was basketball, and walking in the gym and seeing the spectators, it wasn't full, but there was a lot of folks there. Our cheerleaders were cheering, and just watching our students out there having a good time. Let them fool you, they're knocking shots down left and right. I texted Brianna and I said, hey, this guy hit 3 threes in a row. I mean, what's going on here? But, you know, it was a good day. And the heartwarming moment for me at the end, one of our unified athletes, she's been asking the cheerleaders to become a cheerleader for quite some time now. So they made a shirt for her, and they made her an honorary cheerleader yesterday. And But the moment was she just started hugging and just squeezing really tight and was just very thankful to be included with the cheerleading. So I enjoyed it. If you have an opportunity, please check the schedule. They have a couple of games left. It's definitely worth attending. I do want to thank some of the staff members that were involved. I saw Scott Swartz, Justin Keppen. We had our paraeducators out there, Lori Brinkerhoff, Kathleen Sauter, our teacher. So it was just a good day. I also want to highlight our fitness challenge winners. I don't know if you remember, we had a fitness challenge. We had 31 teams participate, and there was a team over at Benicia Middle School. They named themselves Too Inspired to Be Tired. And it was right because they won. So
Nice.
we're going to honor them tomorrow. We have some certificates and some prizes for them for their efforts. And there's been a lot of energy behind it, and we're gonna do it again this spring. So I think what happened is all the PE teachers that are constantly moving, they group up, so they're typically at the top of the list. So kind of like fantasy football, I think we might do a draft just to level the playing field a little bit, just to make the competition a little tighter. I do want to mention Night of Stars. That's the opportunity for us to honor our staff members of the year, both classified, certificated, and administrator or management. And it's also, an evening where we celebrate all BUSD staff. We solidified our date, May 9th at Northgate. We'll send out some additional information, but it will take place on May 9th if you would like to hold the date in your calendar. And State of the District on January 22nd, just next week. We're going to do the State of the District presentation right here at the district office, right across the way at the Liberty Gym. The event will start with a 40-minute staff and student showcase right here in this boardroom. Career technical education projects, you'll see art projects, you'll see examples of student work from all grade levels. Just an opportunity to walk around and engage with our staff and students. Our BHS Jazz Band will play music during that time. They'll do the national anthem, and then we'll transition into the Liberty Gym. At that point, we'll have an hour presentation, and we're going to highlight all the successes that we've had historically in BUSD. We'll talk about our current state of the district and what lies ahead. And then the evening will end with about a 20-minute student-facilitated panel. Dr. Beatson and I had an opportunity to meet with the students yesterday, and trust me, I think the students will be the highlight of this presentation on the 22nd. So please join us. Doors open at 5:45. If you can RSVP, that's great. If not, we do accept walk-ins. Just please come and celebrate with us. We'd love to have you. And this event will also be live streamed. So if you're not able to come in person, or if you have relatives or friends that live in other areas that want to tune in, there's an option for that as well. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. Any board reports?
I just want to share that it's been really great. This is my second meeting now. And there's community members that have been reaching out, and I just want to just tell the board, too, that it's been really great working with you and that, you know, this is new to me, so I'm going to be talking probably a lot more and talking things through as we're going through the agenda. So just sort of just sharing that's where I'm coming from.
Great.
Thank you. Any others?
I do. So yesterday I attended the Liberty and Rotary Oversight Committee as part of my duties on the board. And I want to thank the Rotary Club of Benicia for their 2 donations of $1,500. One that went to girls soccer at Benicia High and the other that went to girls golf at Benicia High. So thank you to the Rotary Club for those generous donations. The Rotary Club also honored our very own Jeffrey Boucher at Matthew Turner, 2nd grade teacher, as Teacher of the Month. So it was great to see him get his award. As part of the Oversight Committee, I learned more about Liberty. You know, I grew up here, I'm aware of Liberty, but I don't know all that much about what Liberty does and how it's supported. So I got an opportunity to spend the day, saw Victoria, I saw the salmon spinning project and received a really, really great explanation by one of the students. Saw the native plant garden, we saw the vegetable garden, and it was great to see all of the special programming we have at Liberty.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank Dr. Wright for our special board meeting, where we looked over our board policies, we looked over our practices, and you'll notice some changes tonight in the way we vote on things, on different items. So thank you for that. It was a very productive meeting, very interesting, and I think some really good updates happened. So thank you for that. We now come to item number 10, comments from members of the public. All functions of the board meeting, including public comments, will take place in person. Members of the public may address the board at a regular meeting on any item within the board's jurisdiction. Speaker cards are available on the entrance table. Please note that if you wish to speak to and submit the card to the board secretary. The board president will call the open session general comments, Government Code Section 54954.3. During the public comment item, comments for items on the agenda will be called during the specific item. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, or the board may limit the total time to 20 minutes per item with the timer displayed on the monitors. By law, no action may be taken on any item raised during the public comment periods, and matters may be referred to staff for placement on a future agenda of the governing board. Please be reminded to keep your comments respectful, as students may be watching the board meetings. Thank you. And our first speaker, and please, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Halo Ledoux. You can clap for him, it's okay.
Hi, I'm Halo, and I go to BMS, aka Benicia Middle School, and I play for Benicia Arsenal. I've been playing soccer since I was 5, and right now we've been playing soccer on basketball courts, because none of the fields in Benicia are ready or good to play soccer. Especially at BMS, our fields have been torn, and there's tons of holes in them. Soccer, especially for my team, since we love soccer, we've played it together, and when I joined, they made me feel welcome, and they immediately helped me. And coach, he welcomed me and helped me with everything. Soccer has helped all of us with our emotions, and I think it's helped us level with each other. And when we play on the basketball courts, it just doesn't help us. So these fields could help us a lot with practice and help us with our games, because we've been playing our games and trying to win here for Benicia.
Thank you, Halo. Our next speaker is Jesse Mueller. Oh, I'm sorry, it didn't say that.
Yeah, there's only one general comment, and the other one's for 13G and F.
So just a point of order. For a point of order online, so the boys all turned out because online, it didn't say that there was another public on the agenda. There was another public comment period after the presentation. So they all showed up thinking that this was the time and not speaking after the presentation on the specific item. So is there a way we can let them speak?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do the,
Yeah.
we'll do that. Yeah, yes, sir.
Sure.
Did they submit, you're talking about the president?
Yeah, I think we should have put general comments.
Okay, perfect, that's fine. We can do that.
I don't see that.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Jesse Mueller. I also just want to reference Jared Slate's letter. I'm not gonna read it all out, but I'm pretty sure you've all read it. It's eloquently states a lot of the points that are relevant here. Benicia Arsenal Football Club has a foundation of passionate players, families, coaches. Our family is one of those. We participate in the recreational program, competitive and coaching. We compete against teams all around the Bay Area, and it's a constant source of frustration and even embarrassment, the state of our soccer fields. We are juggling field assignments constantly. The fields are closed in winter, as Halo referred to. So right now we're improvising all kinds of training sessions to keep the kids active and keep them playing. With proper infrastructure investment, Benicia could really excel to a new level of soccer and other sports as well, obviously. It'd be wonderful to be able to host tournaments in this town, and it would be a source of pride and a lot of community enjoyment. And it would be great to be able to practice all year long. So I was just so excited to hear that these projects were on the agenda and being discussed, both the turf field at the high school and the 2 fields at the middle school. And I would just urge and plead and beg for approval of these projects to move forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eli Nolan?
Good afternoon, leadership. I appreciate your time. My name is Eli Nolan. I'm actually a product of Benicia Unified School District. I moved to Benicia in 1988, went to Mary Farmer, Benicia Middle School, graduated Benicia High in 1997. I have 4 kids. They're all active in sports. I actually have come back and I'm coaching basketball, and so at the high school. And so, Dr. Wright, your comments on everything we have going on with youth sports and some of our programs are great. You mentioned unified basketball in the team. I think the gentleman you're probably talking about is Lucas Paterno, who actually plays on the JV team for me. So it's really neat to hear stories like that. So my comments are more geared towards items F and G, the turf fields. I love sports. It's a big reason of my success in life and what I have going on. And so I love the idea that that's being considered for a couple reasons. I not only support it, but I think as a community we must do it. We really have to do it for 2 main reasons: physical and mental health of our youth. We know that kids getting out and being active, playing on sports teams, playing together, being out there is great for their mental and physical health. So that's number 1. And then also 2, the revenue generation. I think it's a great opportunity for the school district, because I know firsthand a lot of families, myself, we spend a lot of money each month going outside the community, whether it's training, whether it's sports programs, primarily due to the facilities. And there's a good opportunity for the community and the school district to really capitalize on that. And it's not all about money, but it's a great opportunity to keep a lot of our families here connected and also bring people in who are going to maybe attend sports tournaments, spend money down on First Street. We have a neat community that has a lot of kids who love love playing sports. You know, we got some soccer players out here. I was Halo. I was running around playing football in these fields, probably the same grass fields, you know. And so the idea of having turf, you don't have the potholes, we can play year round, and it's a great opportunity where we have a lot of programs that are willing to spend the money to keep their services in here and really support that. So I would love to see that move forward. Also, too, if it does get to the point of going through, I would recommend from a professional standpoint, I'm in finance, is setting up a maintenance fund. Turf is a lot easier to maintain on a day-to-day basis, but long-term it could really catch up. So if it's something that goes through, I'd recommend having a maintenance fund where some of the revenues derived from those fields go into that maintenance fund. So that way in years 2, 3, 5, and especially 10, we have a few $100,000 saved up to care for that. I've been to a lot of fields where they were nice for the first few years. 15 years later, it's a big liability. So I appreciate your time, appreciate you considering this, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Jax is our next speaker.
Hello, I'm Jackson Kohler. I go to Benicia Middle School, and I play for BAFC. A lot of the players on our team are really, really competitive and love to win. And it's hard to be more competitive when you don't have the same resources as other teams do. And so it would really help us out a lot if you could make better fields for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jax. So Isabella and any students that would like to head on out and for the rest of their evening, please feel free. And otherwise, we will go on to the approval of our consent. Were there more people who want to talk?
They didn't.
They have to turn in a card. Yeah, they know. Okay, the approval of our consent calendar. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on roll call vote unless discussion of the items is requested by the board members. So our first 11A, minutes of the meeting of December.
Well-
Mrs. Martinez, we just are going to do,
We just approve them all in one.
just approve them all. So can I have a
I'll
motion
move that we approve the consent calendar as written.
and a second, please?
I'll second.
And
All those in favor?
Aye.
And moving on to item 12, presentations and communication and informational items. Benicia Unified School District School Facility General Obligation Bond Measure C, Construction Projects and Planning, is Mrs. Roxanne Egan, our bond director, and you're going to be up here for a little bit.
First of all, thank you for making time for me to share out these fun and exciting updates tonight. We're going to start on this first slide, which is an overview, but before I go into that, I wanted to just talk about our process. Excuse me. We met with site administrators reviewing the projects and got input before we brought this to you. After sharing it with you, we're going to be updating graphic boards within the deal hall so that they're there for everyone to view. We'll be meeting with the Facilities Master Plan Steering Committee, and then we'll be meeting with the CBOC and sharing out updates with them. I'll be posting documents on the Measure C website, and then we're going to have another open house meeting at each site, similar to what we did last spring, to gather community input. So these first documents are schematic, and they're moldable, so to speak, as we walk through this process and gather, but it's a starting point for the discussion. From this slide right here, what I'd like to do is just highlight the things that we've completed, and then for things that are in progress, we will go through the details on the schematic drawings. So just excited to share out, it's been 9 months since Measure C passed, and we've completed technology and IT upgrades for securities. Joe Henderson has new NPR roofing. Mary Farmer has a new playground shade structure. Robert Semple has HVAC upgrades. Really, across the district, we have various spots that have had HVAC upgrades. And then all the projects that are listed there in construction will be complete prior to the end of the school year 2025, which includes a new TK building at Joe Henderson. So just really proud to share that progress. You want to go on to Mary Farmer? Thank you. So this is an update. We have shared previous plans for our master plan, and really probably what I want to do is, this first page is existing site plan and their uses, and I'm going to go ahead and flip to the next page if we could. This is our new end schematic plan, and in prior planning, we didn't have money to fully fund all the improvements through Measure S, and B, we had the softball field, which greatly impacted the site of Mary Farmer. So moving that field down is going to be such of a benefit to Mary Farmer and to the high school both. So these buildings now, instead of being an interim phase where I'm going to point up here, where these lower 6 buildings are here, that's on the existing softball field. And so those can be built as phase 1, and we don't have to have interim housing. Oh, okay. Sorry. So those, that'll save us some steps and just building permanent buildings instead of having to do interim buildings. If you want to, so this end result gets Mary Farmer 3 classrooms for each class level. So 3 TK, 3 kindergarten, 3 first grade. And it gives them, we've got the community garden up there, and we've got playground structures. So as we go and progress through this planning, it occurs in 3 phases, but we're going to watch enrollment. And if enrollment drops or the buildings aren't necessitated, then we'll adjust. And when we bid, we could have like a additive alternate to, you would leave the space in planning for a future if you needed it, but not install it now if we don't need them. So that's how we're going to kind of progress this. But our overall goal was that we're going to plan for 3 at each level, which was that was our baseline for what we identified as need. And then when we get ready to bid, if there's not the need, we'll scale back. So they have a total of, where we take out 9 existing modular buildings and replace them, and then they have 4 additional buildings. And that takes them to the level equal with all the other sites. The 4 buildings are 3 classroom buildings, and then it's 1 restroom building. Well, it's half restroom and half storage. So you want to flip to the next one, please? So the way this builds out, I'm sorry, back one, or were you today? That's phase 1. So phase 1, down here at the bottom, these 6 buildings will be in construction. All the rest of the buildings on campus will still be occupied. This occurs on the perimeter of campus, so that construction can happen year-round without being overly imposing on the site. Next. Oh. Can you do it for me, please? Yeah, thank you. This is phase 2, and this is our TK and K. So at this phase, the 5 modulars, I don't know what it is, 10 through 15 or something that's up there now, they get to move into the new buildings that are at the lower left-hand side. The other 9 portables that are on the south end of the campus are still staying there and occupied. And then this construction zone is the upper left-hand corner for the TK and kindergarten buildings. This is the 3rd phase. Yeah, 1 back. Whoops, 1 forward. Thank you. This is the 4th phase. So now you have your TK buildings up at the top and kindergarten occupied. You've got your 4th and 5th grade on the left-hand side occupied. And then we block out the lower right-hand side, and that's the last portion of building for your new buildings. And then the last phase that we're showing up there is the main building. And just because this is shown last doesn't mean that it would be the last to receive improvements. We'll do them as we can, as we go along. So that's Mary Farmer. Do you want to go into Robert Semple, or do you guys want to stop and have questions on each one before we go through sites?
Probably questions.
I had a question on Farmer. So the new buildings, they're getting quite a few new buildings, and these aren't portables, these are actual buildings.
They are modular buildings, so they are prefab buildings, but they're similar to the G-Wing at Benicia Middle School. You walk in at grade, they have, you feel just like a real building. We're able to set them and get them built and fabricate. So in the process, it's beneficial to us, but it's a very much improved product over what they used to call portables.
Great. I like the layout. It's nice. The classes are grouped together. There's courtyards and green space, and I feel like you're making good use of the view because it's got a terrific view there, so.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever we can do to enjoy the view. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, great. Anything else we want to talk about on Farmer? Okay, do we want to go into Robert Semple next? So this is Robert Semple, and again, very schematic. If we could maybe, I'm going to flip to the end and show you where we're going, and then I'll go back to the beginning and go page by page. So what this does is you see buildings 1 through 6, which would be the first phase, and then you see buildings 7 through 9, which would be a second phase. So the end goal is that we replace dated portables. There's 7 existing classrooms, P17, 17A, 18, and then the C1 through 4, and they get 1 additional new building. They do have room for expansion on the lower left side if they need it in the future, but this gives them counts equitable to all the other sides. So maybe let's flip back to the first one, please. So this would be phase 1, and we are leaving all the existing buildings in place. P1 through 6, I'm calling them P, I don't know why, let's just say 1 through 6. They'll be built out onto the area that is now part of the field. So the existing entire campus gets to remain occupied while we're building. We have a new parking lot to help alleviate congestion in their parking. During this phase, all of those existing buildings stay. So then, and on the right-hand side, there's some graphics. Honestly, all of that is very schematic. It's just ideas right now, and nothing's really been, that'll get tightened up as we go. Next phase, so now your buildings 1 through 6 are occupied. Buildings P17, P17A, and P18 are demolished, which helps us to be better able to build buildings 1, 2, and 3, minimizing impact to the site users because they're not right next to them. We can't take out what's labeled as the D1 building yet because phase 1 only has 6 buildings, and that would be 7 classrooms that we were taking out. So we leave the removal of the D1 building until phase 3. Can we go to the next one? Which takes us back to the end where they have their fully built out site. We build the interior courtyards, take out the D building, and that's where we are.
You guys have questions?
I have a question. Will we be doing anything with the field at Robert Semple in terms of leveling it or doing anything on the grass there?
So there are plans to replace the perimeter fencing, which I'm going to try to do sooner than later. That definitely needs done. We don't have a lot of plans for the field. I mean, it'll just continue to be kept up by maintenance in its natural grass state. That's pretty much most of it.
Anyone else?
I have a question about the location. So the administration office is up at by the NPR.
Yep.
And it looks like we're adding a new entry for TK and K, and then, I didn't realize this, but the main entry is also down from the administrative office.
So the
right?
TKK would happen right on the angle between where it says 1 and 9.
Okay,
So they could park right there in the parking lot, walk up the sidewalk, and walk up onto the campus. Also, CDU would be placed in those classrooms that are 7, 8, and 9. So their after-school activities, they are not traversing the whole campus. They just can go right in through that side access. Right now, where you see it labeled Building A2, just south of that is a gate.
okay.
So we're going to try to do some graphics there that are like a new entry. they actually walk and do their main lineup in the mornings, right? They're not in front of the office right now. But we are going to meet with the site users, and we'll certainly take their input, and if something needs to be tweaked, well, yeah, that can be done.
Yeah, that's great. I just think about security and making sure we are able to monitor the entrances. And, you know, this is such a tricky drive and drop off, to say the least. Just making sure that it flows and that people don't have to go too far if they need to go to the office to check in, you know, if they have to go to their student's classroom.
Those are all good suggestions.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll take it in, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Next. Next up, we have Joe Henderson. Sorry. Okay, yeah, so this will be the same. Let's, well, I'll just start out here actually on this one and give a little bit of introduction. Under Measure S, one of our projects that we needed to do that was a high priority was the replacement of building F3, and really all of those F buildings are way past their lifetime. Initially, we've always known that we wanted to bring the CDU programs into the D wing so they were on the perimeter of campus and had that access. Initially, we did not have money to do everything that was needed, so we were going to just replace F3 in its existing location. With the passage of Measure C, we returned to the drawing board and reconsidered to do, so we do it once and do it right. So what this does, this would be phase one, and the upper right-hand side where you see the hatched building, that is the existing F3 location. We relocate the existing building to the opposite side so that we can close that whole area for a construction zone. So we also will be demolishing that play structure, and then since we're taking it away, before we really start everything, we have to give them something. So the playground on the left it's aged and in need of replacement, so it'll get expanded and replaced. So that'll be, and we're also showing some shade structures down there on their playground. That'll be the first step in preparation for really what's a much bigger move-on project. Next. So this would be phase two. So now the construction zone is the upper right-hand corner where you see the buildings F4 through F8. And those will be new buildings. We also are installing a restroom building that would be behind them for support. Go ahead, go to the next one, please. So this is the third phase. And so now all of your new buildings are occupied. Your F1 through F3 are still occupied. And now we close the D building for renovations because we have to add bathrooms in there and meet all the requirements for CDU. So we have 4 new classrooms that 4 of those can go to. In coordinating with Kathy, she thinks that they can find a way to consolidate the other 2 temporarily for a year or something, some of their spaces, so that we can have the whole building and just keep going year round. So pretty exciting. And then if you go to the next one, please. This is one more. Oh, this is the removal of the buildings, the F1 through 3. And then this last one is the final, where you get to, so I say final, but that's for this initial phase of Joe Henderson. There will be future work that is funded that includes parking lot modifications. And one thing I didn't point out is that we also have a marquee replacement. And then you can see outside of D1 through D3, just north of it, the end goal is that they have music and art in there, and so they have this great outdoor support space that they can go outside and paint or play their instruments. And then north of F4 through F8, we have really nice outside teaching, extended classroom space. And the bathrooms they'll have student restrooms and staff restrooms. On the playground to the left, those kids will be able to access the restrooms as well as the kids from the classrooms. Any questions?
No, looks good.
Okay, cool. You want to go to the next one? So, Benicia High School, the graphic that I have started here with, just to put it in the big picture, on the boards that we're making for the hallway, this is project specific. I'm going to get a board that shows the whole site with all of the targeted projects so that it's more inclusive. And we'll also have a board for Liberty High School and one for Matthew Turner. But this is the PAB, and so just as a reminder, we got funding. We got some grants for PAB for around $3 million, which is great. We have to have it built by 2028, and the project is around 13 million. So we're definitely supplementing that with bond money, and really glad to have it. The scope for this is an addition of around 3,000 square feet, renovations within the existing PAB, fully upgraded, lighting upgrades, expanded stage, HVAC and roofing upgrades. It'll have finish upgrades. We'll have meetings as we go through the finishes. I know Brianna's team and users is really anxious to participate that in, of course. So anyhow, those are yet to come. But if we want to flip through some graphics. This just shows our existing PAB. And the area in purple on the right is the expansion, and then also on the lower left, this is the new floor plan. Really just blocks still. This is showing the expanded stage. It will move the dance studio into the PAB, and then modified drama classroom and changing rooms. This is the outside. So this is looking from the driveway on your right as you're going towards the parking lot. So they'll have kind of a new tower, and the bottom one's from the front of the school, really anchoring it from that intersection. And then these are our sections. So the seating, it will stay pretty close to its existing capacity. Any questions there?
Just as part of this, are they going to do the cosmetic stuff, like paint and seats, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
It should feel like a new space when
Yeah.
they get through in there.
Nice,
And
okay.
the cloth on the walls, and yeah.
This is really exciting. Looks really, hold on, to get closer to the microphone. Looks really great. Will we be able to utilize the PAB for outside resources? So, you know, sometimes there's a lot of concerts at the Benicia Clock Tower. Could we utilize the PAB for that?
I think that you can. It really would be a coordination, like maintenance, and then site users agreements, and obviously our facilities get first dibs. I kind of look to Damon, because ultimately I'll probably go to him for his call, and yeah.
Yeah, it would be part of our rental.
Resources or
You'd
something?
be renting,
Just like we do our
field.
fields, and I think it's
great.
available now, so.
Oh, okay. This upgrade is really nice, though.
Great. You want to go on to the fields? Okay, so this is the existing softball fields at the high school and baseball. Can you go to the next one, please? So this upgrades the fields so that they are not natural. They are artificial turf. Both the varsity baseball and the varsity softball get artificial turf. We have lighting so that they can have extra hours for practice and games. And then they have a practice field that they'll share. So instead of having a field that's just designated to practice field, they felt that by finding a compromise where they alternate maybe between the practice field and the regular one for different exercises, and then also having the batting cages, that they could do this and that it can work for them well and not be on Mary Farmer anymore. So it also has parking. There's about 50 parking spaces that get added. That'll be a great benefit both for the high school, the games, and even for Mary Farmer during drop-off. Yeah. So any questions on here?
I just have sorry, Mark.
No, go ahead, go first.
I just have a comment, and that is, this is so exciting. It's so exciting to get to have our fields updated and safe, and just bringing them up to standard. So thank you for your very hard work.
Thank you.
Fabulous. It is all the upgrades are so exciting, and we really appreciate your coming and presenting to us. Thank you.
The fields aren't a final product, right, in terms of what we're doing?
We're going to keep meeting and refining the planning, but we hope to, if we get your approval, we hope to progress through those needed steps fairly quickly so that we can keep rolling with stuff. But it's definitely, there's going to be meetings for input.
For input-wise, One of the softball coach, the varsity softball coach reached out. Is there any way we could include her and the baseball coach in on the,
Been included.
oh, I didn't.
VHS fields?
Yeah, we also have another meeting scheduled next week with the users and the architects present. So we had one meeting with them, we've had 2 meetings with them, gathering input. And so we incorporated their comments but haven't met yet to like get more. So we'll keep, if you want to send me a name or send it to Damon, he can send it to me.
No.
Yeah,
He knows.
Damon's been at the meeting, so he'll, yeah.
Thank you. Because she reached out.
We'll make sure we follow up.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Now we come to our item 13, our action items.
We have one more.
Oh, I'm
Middle
sorry.
school.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, please. Okay. So the last one, last but not least. I think we have some interested participants here. So this is the middle school. Here's our existing fields. And so, as you know, there's been a lot of discussion about safety around the existing lower fields and also the necessity for an additional field that both the community and our schools could use. So this shows what we are proposing. This is a soccer field. It has a 6-lane track around it. It has parking for ADA, a restroom building that could, all gender restrooms, and then also like a snack shack you could have at the end of it. We'll have perimeter fencing around it, a vehicular gate up at the top so that you can stop people from coming down when you don't want them afterwards. On the upper left, we're going to add just a container shed for maintenance to have their equipment in. And then you can use the middle school parking lot as overflow for activities that they have here. It does not include lighting, and it does not include bleachers. So we are putting the infrastructure for lighting in, but it is beyond our budget capacities. And at some point in the future, if money becomes available, the infrastructure is there, so we're not ripping up our beautiful field if we proceed with it, and they can install it.
Good to think ahead.
So, any questions?
I have a question. So just to talk through the field a little bit, so there's no lighting and no bleachers, but we have room for a snack shack. I guess I'm concerned of like if there's people there, if we have people at games, and we have a crowd of people, where will they just stand on the track?
Well, there's a greenery around it that you could sit on. You're going to be sitting horizontal beside it, but
So like if there's a Benicia Middle School game there, would people be encouraged to bring lawn chairs?
I think it would be something like that to start with. And it's something that could always be added. We could come back and we can look at it in the planning, and we can kind of watch funding as we step through this. And if we have resources, I think right now we're trying to do what we can, but also trying to be mindful to not, but it is a really good question and comment. Like, we're getting there, but like the bathrooms, like if you do a space and don't have a bathroom building, you're kind of asking for trouble. You're going to be in a situation.
For sure.
So that's why we're doing that.
I would just advocate, because at the high school, they had the bleachers, and I know when people utilize the field, it's really encouraged to be on the bleachers, not to be on the track and field. And so just thinking about the maintenance of the middle school track and field, when you have people there,
Well, and so,
how does,
yeah,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. If we talk about bleachers, the bleachers at the high school, so I guess I think about degrees of bleachers. How many, like,
That's true.
'cause-
I'm not saying make it like the high school
Yeah,
stadium
that's
at all,
a
but
lot
I'm
of
just,
money.
yes, I'm just encouraging that I think there needs to be a place,
Something.
yeah.
Yeah, because
Right.
sorry.
I just want to ask a question if I can. And the bleachers, are we limited with space, or is it funding, or a little bit of both?
Right now, I just was looking at funding, and so I can look at space, and then maybe we do like, well, at the lower fields, they're looking at smaller sets of bleachers that are supporting the baseball fields. Maybe if we look at, well, what does that cost, and can we do some compromise that's at halfway in the middle? Okay.
So maybe you could come back to us with that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add another consideration, actually a question. Will the middle school be able to do its promotion ceremonies on the new field? Because doing them up on the blacktop, there's a lot of, complaints. People can't see their kids and everybody's sitting on the field in a lawn chair, so.
Well,
I
and so
don't know.
that brings back to the question of bleachers, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
as far as a functional space, I don't see any reason at all they couldn't do it. I mean, I know like on the stadium, they have requirements that they don't want you to wear heels or this or that. So I'm sure they're gonna have all the same things for maintenance, but I don't have any reason why they couldn't have them there, but it just also speaks to the need for seating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably an admin decision.
Probably, and this one too, this is just a consideration. I've received some emails from the community pertaining to soccer, and if this is a soccer field with a track around it, one concern is how do we prevent a ball from hitting somebody running around the track? So if there's, I don't know how this works, but I guess there's nets that you can use if something like that would be possible, or the hardware, I guess, to be put in there if somebody were to bring their own nets. I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But keeping that
I'll check
potentially in
on it.
mind.
Yeah, thank you.
I think all of this begs the question too, to think about other outside of school hours or school individuals using these resources.
Has to be outside of school hours.
Yeah, like, how do we move that forward with people renting the fields and utilizing the spaces? And I think that might eventually need to be looked at in terms of who's going to be on there, not necessarily who, but how can we prioritize and how can we ensure that, we're having a lot more space around the city, which is really, really great. So how can we utilize all these spaces that we have?
Yeah, I agree, and I think I like that idea, and, I worked in my previous role, we had a community meeting where we met with the city and the school district, and at the beginning of each season, we sat down and we mapped out field usage space. Hasn't been something that I think we've done in Benicia, but as I'm hearing that we're field landlocked, maybe that's something that we can work with the city and collaboratively figure that piece out, because obviously, Benicia, school district activities get priority, but when there's open space, or if the city's fields has open space, how do we allocate that? Because we also have to consider, while we're doing some of this construction, some of the Benicia High School athletics will be displaced as we're doing a baseball and softball fields. So I think there's an opportunity for us to sit down and really collaborate and map some of this out. I wholeheartedly agree that prioritizing in-town Benicia activities versus out of town, I think that makes sense. But I think there's an opportunity here for us to get together and collaborate outside of the school district, just to make sure that all user groups are accommodated.
And I just want to make one more comment about the fields at Robert Semple and Joe Henderson, because those are the two elementary schools that I know about their fields and the students go on there, that if there's an opportunity to think about that as we're thinking about the sites, that would be really great. And I'm just talking about just leveling that land, essentially, not necessarily making a beautiful landscape, but there's a lot of holes and areas that students could hurt themselves out there.
Definitely. We will add that. I think that is something very doable as part of the modernization. I know we've had conversations at Joe Henderson, and part of it right now is that we are driving construction trucks over those fields. And so we're waiting to get the new TK building in. And then once that's done, we do have plans to try to get them leveled out, the irrigation fixed, and planting some trees for shade. And Robert Semple, it certainly makes sense that as we do the new buildings, the first 6, you're going to have construction vehicles driving all over those fields. So like after that's done, our last piece, go back, level it out, clean it up, and then maintenance can help us with that afterwards. Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Now I'm going away.
Thank you, Mrs. Egan. We'll see you in a little bit. So now we're on to item number 13, our action items. So We are coming to Mrs. Barrington with our independent auditor's report.
So I'd like to introduce Spencer Blanda. He will be presenting our annual audit for the district and both of our bond measures as of June 30th, 2024, and he has a presentation for both.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to walk you through the results first of our district audit as of June 30, 2024. And to talk about the agenda, essentially what this is, or these are the deliverables when we issue our audit report. We have our communication with those charged of governance letter, which is our communication as the auditor to you as members of the board. And then we have the actual independent auditor's report along with the financials. And then finally at the back of the audit report packet are the control letters, the state compliance letters, and the federal compliance letters. So we'll talk briefly about each of those in the slides. So looking at the scope of the engagement, when you have your financials, you have the government-wide financials, you have the set of fund financials, you have your required supplementary information, your notes, and all that information in the back. And then the letters are at the way back of the audit report. So starting first with that communication with those charged of governance packet, biggest takeaway from this slide is that we issued an unmodified opinion. Now what this means is that this is the best opinion that us as the auditor can give. This means that the financials are free from any material misstatement and that they're in accordance with appropriate accounting principles in US GAAP. We worked closely with the school district management over the course of the audit, first with Tim Rahil, who's no longer here at interim, and then with Trudy Barrington at the year-end phase. And so we came out, we did our preliminary activities, our internal control testing, we come back again, we do our financial testing, and so forth. And the biggest communication I wanted to give on this is that it was a smooth process as always. We received everything that we needed to, all appropriate representations from management, and we had no disagreements throughout the course of the audit. So in conclusion, a very smooth process. We're also required to let you know if there's any significant accounting estimates that you'll find in the financials. The biggest estimates that you will see involve the collectability of accounts receivable and also net pension liability and net OPEB liability. So those are the significant estimates that you'll see in the district financials. And when we do an audit, we don't just look at numbers, we look at a variety of things such as tests of controls, tone at the top, etc. So we're really looking at things from a variety of different angles to ultimately conclude, does it make sense? And the results of the audit, staff was available. As I mentioned, no disagreements. We did have a finding control side-wise. I'll touch briefly about that at the end there. It's just on internal control, mainly around journal entries. And we had no significant adjustments related to the financials. Now starting with the independent auditor's report. So when we say audit report, it's mainly pages 1 through 3 of your packet, but the whole packet encompasses a variety of things. What you'll see is, as I mentioned, unmodified opinion on there, so biggest takeaway there. Moving on to pages 4 through 9, management's discussion analysis. This is really a great resource for anybody that wants to see what happened over the course of the fiscal year, but wants kind of high-level summary of that. The management discussion analysis will give you that. And now let's look about what happened over the course of the fiscal year. So you'll see from a government-wide perspective that total assets went up about $40 million. What's driving this is we had an issuance of Measure C bond and deferred inflows and outflows. Those adjustments are being mainly driven by changes in the net OPEB and net pension liabilities. So as the actuaries come out with new valuations, they will impact those, and so those will go up and down from year to year depending on how the actuary will evaluate those. And total liabilities are up about $40.3 million. What's driving this is a Measure C bond issuance, as I mentioned, but also net pension and net OPEB liabilities have increased as well. And finally, net position is up $2.6 million from the prior year. And then this just breaks it down in a little bit more detail. As you can see, we did have some capital outlay increase as well as we have those projects related to the bond going on at the school district. Now looking at summary of statement of activities, and this is essentially an income statement at the government-wide level. So we saw revenues are up $3 million. What's driving this is we had increases in the LCFF funding from prior year, And we also saw increases in the fair market value of the Cache and County Treasury external investment pool. So the market had a good year last year, and that drove up that fair market value, so that's also contributing to that. Expenses are down from the prior year, about 5.6 million. Those will go up or down depending on what's going on. We have some capital outlay and so forth. So those will drive that. And then that rate, that net position changed, went up by 8.6 million. That's not actually what it went up by, but it's the rate at which it changed from year to year. And so this just breaks everything down in a little bit more detail. A majority of our expenditures on the government-wide side are in instruction-related services, and pupil services. Now that we've covered government-wide, this now zooms into the fund financial level. So looking at general fund, which is the main fund, as you can see, a majority of the revenue is driven by LCFF funding. Federal is down from prior years, and we know that COVID money is being spent up, so that has continually gone down as that COVID money is being used up. State's also down from the prior year as well. This mainly will fluctuate depending on what the state legislature issues in terms of categorical funding. So last year we did see Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant and Arts and Music and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant, both of which were kind of one-time funding sources that they issued last year and didn't issue this year. So that's why state is appearing down from the prior year. And local mainly fluctuated, as I mentioned, because the fair market value went up from the prior year. And now looking at things from an expense side, so about 85 to 86% of the general fund expenditures are driven by salaries and benefits related costs. Now looking at financial trends and analysis, so this you'll find in the supplementary information section, which is in the back of that packet. And this gives you a multi-year perspective, not only as what's happened over the last couple of years, but also what is projected to happen in 24-25. So over the last couple of years, long-term debt has gone up, and this is mainly driven by the bond issuance that we had and also increases in net pension and net OPEB liability. Another thing of note here is that we have seen ADA go up over the last couple of years, which is great. It has been increasing since the pandemic days, which is illustrated on that chart there. So we are coming back up from that pandemic days, which is good. And so now I want to touch briefly about the 3 letters that you'll see in the back of your audit report packets. So first one is that I want to touch on is state compliance letter. So we had no issues noted with state compliance testing. And the other one, federal compliance testing, we had no issues as that related to that. Internal control, the only thing that we noted was on segregation of duties. We did have turnover over the years, so sometimes journal entries could not have the approval that we were looking for. Sometimes like you have to go in and put it in, like same person postings, the same person that posts into the system. But that's mainly driven by there's some turnover, so we met with management. We have a game plan going forward to have a primary entry and a secondary reviewer. It's always good to have a review, and it's important with this is that even though we had this, there was no misstatements noted. So even though we had this, no issues were noted with the financials. And then with that, as conclusion, the net position has gone up, and I would like to thank formerly Tim Rahil, but then Trudy Barrington for her help in the year-end phase. And Trudy can attest, it's a large process both at interim and year-end. We ask about maybe like over 100 requests each in both phases. And so we're very thorough, and management, and especially Trudy, has been super helpful in giving us what we need even during the final hour when we're wrapping up everything. So my thanks to Trudy and the staff there. And with that, I would like to open the floor to any questions that anybody may have before I move on to the bond.
Can we go back to slide 19?
Yes.
So we've had a lot of discussion about percentage of the budget for people, and we talked about a 92. I guess, are you saying for 24-25 it's 92? Because it looks like it's 86 here for 23-24.
This is the entire fund, both restricted and unrestricted. The conversations we've been having are around the unrestricted side.
Okay. Because, I mean, the restricted side has the people it has to pay for too, right?
It does, and a lot of the restricted side are the one-time funds and the staff associated with those one-time funds. Also on the restricted side is special ed and some of our maintenance, but a majority of our staff are on the unrestricted side of our budget. And that's what we've been talking about. That's the area where we have more ability to facilitate change. On the restricted side, you get money for a specific purpose and you have to use it for that.
And a lot of our unrestricted funds have to go to the restricted side to make up the shortfall, especially for SPED, right?
We do have contributions that are necessary for special ed, and then we do have the required routine restricted maintenance contribution.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Can I have a motion to approve the independent auditor's report, please?
Can I move that we approve the independent auditor's report as presented?
And a second, please.
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we come to action item 13B, the financial and performance bond audit. Ms. Barrington, are you both back up?
Yes, Spencer will also present this as James Marta and Company does our audit report.
Yes, so I will walk you briefly through the results, even though it says Measure S, and we included both Measure S and Measure C on the PowerPoint presentation. Oh, sorry, I think it needs to. Perfect. So I'm gonna, so the first couple slides is mainly background information that's standard about bonds in general and then what has been issued. So I'm actually gonna take you straight to the communication with those charged with governance letter, which is the first packet that you'll see in the bond deliverables. So biggest takeaway is that on both Measure C and Measure S bonds, and they are separate audit reports for both, we had an unmodified opinion, which means that the bond financials are free from any material misstatement and that they're in accordance with appropriate accounting principles and US GAAP. Again, we worked closely with the management team as well, and we do the bond audit side by side the district audit. So we worked with management as well when we did our bond testing, both at interim and at year end. And with the bond audit, we had no disagreements. It was a smooth process as well with this, same as the district audit. We're also required to communicate if there's any significant accounting estimates that you'll see. And with the bonds, it mainly is due to accounts payable. But other than that, everything numbers-wise is pretty straightforward in those financials. And so I talked about this, audit procedures for the bond are about the same as the district audit. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the results. There was no findings that we noted on both Measure S and Measure C bonds. And staff was available for both. So again, smooth process there. Now looking at the independence auditor's report. So this is going to be pretty much the same for both Measure C and Measure S. On pages 1 through 3, you'll have your actual independent auditor's report. And as mentioned, a clean opinion on both. So now looking at the balance sheet. So normally what you'll see with bonds is, in the case of Measure C, this is the first year of issuance, so the cash is going to be up about like 45 million. But as we go through year to year, and it would be the case with Measure S, this is going to continue to go down as the bond funds are being spent and used on the projects. And sometimes there will be fluctuations because this is in Fund 21, so sometimes it'll go up and down depending on what happens to that cash and county treasury and fair market value fluctuation. And then this is the revenue, this is the income statement side there, highlighting there. So Measure S, as it continues to be used up, is going to go down, and then Measure C is just in the beginning phases, so you're not going to see a whole lot of expenditures there, but as we go forward with those projects, you'll start to see like salaries, capital outlay, and so forth. We also do a performance audit with the bonds, and so what this is that when the bonds get issued, they have the measured texts, so we go in and test them to not only make sure that there's proper controls over what's being spent of the public funds, but that they're in accordance with what the community voted on. And so when we do our methodology, we test so essentially when we do our bond testing, it is 80% or greater of expenditures. And so of that, we reviewed things such as invoices, bidding process, change orders, et cetera, just making sure everything appears reasonable. And the conclusion there is we noted no issues in what we tested. And so the funds, in conclusion, the funds are being spent in accordance with the bond measure, and there's strong controls at the business office over those public dollars, which is important. And so as I mentioned there, no issues on the performance side and control testing side for each of those bonds. In conclusion, the district is expending the funds in accordance with Measure S and Measure C, so in accordance with what the community voted on. I would like to thank Trudy Barrington and the district staff for their help on the bond as well. So with that, I'd like to open the floor to any questions that the board may have.
Are there any questions? I want to just thank Trudy as well, because I felt much more prepared as I went through the board packet, and so thank you so much. Can I have a motion to approve and file the financial performance audit for Measure S and Measure C, general obligation bonds?
I move that we approve the financial and performance bond audit for Measure S and Measure C.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second. I moved to make a second.
Just
Make a second.
And
All
Mrs.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your time this evening, everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate.
Thank you. Okay, so we're now to action item C. Mrs. Egan, you are up again, and then you're also here for a while.
Okay. So this is a return from our prior discussion where you guys on December 19th issued an intent to convey an easement to the city. So this is a second action to that is required, and it actually says, yes, we're conveying it, and we're giving the city an easement, meaning we still own the property. We are giving them rights to build the bridge. They actually have already gone to DSA. They wrote a letter to the community talking about how they had negotiated funds from Republic Services to pay for all of the improvements, and they have included both the bridge and the walkway improvements in their documents to DSA. So staff recommendation is to go ahead and issue this to the city. Just as a FYI, we will be coming back with a future request for a second so this is a permanent easement. They will be asking for a second easement, which will be a temporary easement, and it will just allow them access across our property while they install the improvements. So the request tonight is to approve a permanent easement, which is only the 10 by 18 approximately piece for them to put the bridge abutment on.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Can I have a motion to approve the easement to the city?
I'll move that we approve resolution number 242521 as presented.
I second.
Thank you.
This being a resolution, we're going to do a roll call vote. President Grubbs.
Yes.
Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Manassi.
Yes.
Thank you.
And item 13D, consideration and approval of resolution 242522, authorizing filing of applications for state allocation board administrative programs for the Benicia Unified School District.
So this is our state grants that we apply for, which are matching monies for our local Measure C bond and Measure S. It used to be called Prop 51, and they recently passed what they call Proposition 2 now. And with that, they've implemented some new rules. They say still support and match our work in a similar methodology, but they want us just to say, yes, we commit that one of the requirements you have is to file a 5-year facilities master plan, which we already have, and so we're totally ahead of that. And they just want a letter showing that you guys support that, and we agree to do that.
Any questions? Can I have a motion to approve resolution number 2425-22, authorizing the filing of applications for state allocation board administrative programs for the Benicia Unified School District?
I move that we approve resolution 24-25-22.
I'll second.
require another roll call vote. President Grubbs.
Yes.
Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Trustee Maselli.
Yes.
And Trustee Manasi.
Yes.
Thank you.
And action item 13E, consideration and possible approval to award the architectural contract to Hibser,
Yamachi.
Yamachi Architects to proceed with construction documents for the Joe Henderson Elementary School modernization on a time and material basis with a cost of not to exceed $669,750.
So this would allow them to proceed. It's the architect, the engineer, the civil engineer, structural, it's the whole team. And they draw the drawings, they take them through DSA, they give us support through the construction, and then also through closeout. It is a lot of work. I know that this is not a small amount of money. Standards are around 10% within the industry, and this is definitely within the 10%. So staff recommendation is to award the contract and allow them to proceed.
I was about to ask if this is standard. It does seem like a lot of money for
Yeah.
documents. but
It's a
okay.
big project, and it is a pretty industry standard. And as the projects get bigger, then sometimes the fees come down a little bit, and when they're smaller, they go up.
Okay.
But, because you still have to do a minimum amount of work, no matter how small it
Makes
is.
sense.
Yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
The only other thing I'd like to ask, because these are legal agreements, are they reviewed by legal, or are they forms, how, you know?
Legal provides a standard form, and that is the template. That is all of the front base plate. That is there, and then their proposal is just the back agreement, but they are governed by, it is our legal counsel's standard document. And on smaller ones, then we're not really required to use such of a large document, but when we come to full planning like this, we definitely do.
I have a motion. Oh, do you have?
Yeah, I just have a quick question because I just thought of this. Did we take this out to bid in terms of architects and?
Architectural and professional services are not required to bid. You don't have to take the lowest price. We do measure them against industry standard, and I certainly have twisted people's arms before, but the process is that we issue a request for qualifications, and we open it up, and we allow interested professionals to apply, and they bring their work. We check referrals and recommendations, and then we can make the decision, and then we can hire them direct and use them. So we don't have to go out for a request for qualification on every single project. We do it as needed. So we've worked with Hipster Yamachi for a very long time, and they've been a good support to us.
So I understand this correctly. We did not open it up for other architectural firms to apply or look into it. Okay.
Can I have a motion to award the contract as written?
I move that we award the contract as written.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 13F, consideration and possible approval to award the architectural contract to California Design West Architects to proceed with construction documents for the Benicia High School field upgrades with a cost not to exceed $891,899.
Similar,
Easy.
yeah. So California Design West is a different firm. We are utilizing multiple architectural firms right now. So although I'm not asking for bids on different projects, we're getting support. We have more than one firm can provide, but it also gives me a comparison in what our pricing looks like, as well as what are the benefits. And if I can't get it done with one person, I'll go to the next, quite frankly. So, but we're doing good. We have good teams right now. We're moving on. Staff recommendation is to award this approval for the Benicia High School fields in the amount of $891,899.
Any questions? Can I have a motion to award the contract as written?
I move that we approve the contract as written.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going on to 13G, consideration and approval to award the architectural contract to California Design West Architects to proceed with construction documents for the Benicia Middle School upgrades with a cost not to exceed $446,182.
It's similar. Yeah, it's within industry standards. The cost right now for the fields are estimated above $6 million. We have had good support from California Design West. Staff recommendation is to award the contract to them for $446,182.
Any questions? Can I have a motion?
I just wanted to state something. I just wanted to state that we have Ben Buck here, who is the president of our Benicia Arsenal group. And so for people, just on record that we had that, and I know that the Arsenal group is encouraging and supportive of our fields, so I just want to make sure that we say that before we move on from the fields.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the contract, please?
I move that we approve the contract as written.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Going to 13H, consideration and approval of Benicia High School course outlines, ethnic studies. Dr. Beatson.
Yes, good evening. I'm excited to bring back to you our course outline proposal for ethnic studies. Last meeting, I presented the course proposal, and because as required by Ed Code for this particular course, which will be a graduation requirement beginning, the state required it for the beginning of the 2030 graduating class, and when we voted, when you voted last meeting, we are bringing it in for the graduating class of 2029, so next year's ninth graders. It was required to bring to one meeting prior to it being adopted. So I'm bringing for your hopeful approval and adoption the course outline for ethnic studies. Again, it's the new requirement. It is a semester-long class. It will be offered for students in 11th or 12th grade, and until it becomes a requirement, it will be offered as an elective that students can choose. It lives in the history department, so it will be taught by a history social science teacher. And just to give a little bit of background, as you know, this has been in the works for several years. Our teachers have engaged in a lot of professional development, some through our county office. They did a network for staff that were potentially going to be teaching ethnic studies. We, UC Berkeley put together a series of modules, online modules that teachers participated in. We had a teacher participate in a year long, it might have been six months to a year, I can't quite remember, it was last year, in-person Saturday sessions. So we've done a lot of participating. I myself have gone to several conferences on this as well. The entire course outline is grounded in the state's adopted model curriculum. And from the course outline, once it's approved, then teachers will begin working on syllabus, which has more detail in what the actual course and lesson plans will look like. But all of it will come from the state model curriculum. And just to remind you, there are 5 units, and they are thematic in nature. So one is on identity, on history and movement, systems of power, social movement, and equity. And the team that put this together, they've worked really hard on this, put it together and added another unit on celebrations and contributions, because they wanted to make sure, while there's some heavy stuff in this history of folks, that there was also really recognition of the contributions of different groups. And so tonight, I bring to you ethnic studies for your hopeful approval.
Any questions?
I have a question. I was wondering, okay, so this is a course outline. Do we have an opportunity to approve a syllabus or anything like that beyond this?
No.
Okay. So with that, if anybody else has questions, I have a couple things I just want to say, like observations, I guess. So first of all, I commend staff on identifying a goal for this class that I think is really inclusive. and comprehensive. And last time, Principal Kleinschmidt discussed how the goal is really to understand that there are multiple perspectives. We're coming from different cultures with different histories. We want kids to think critically and form their own opinions. And also in line with the reason that the bill was passed is to have more instruction on culture, history, struggles, and celebrations. So I fully support that. I think that's great. And I reviewed the entire model curriculum. I did. This is interesting for me too. I enjoy it. And I think that the curriculum, you know, you've probably followed some of the news. There's, it's been criticized. It didn't pass at first. It's gone through several modifications. And I know that at this stage, like that is just one resource, and our teachers are going to be compiling other resources, and you listed a couple websites there. One thing I noted just globally, and again, I know that this is still somewhat in flux, is that I didn't think that the model curriculum fully addressed contributions and celebrations on a consistent basis between different groups. I thought the module on African American was pretty comprehensive. There was information on all of those topics. And then, but less so with the other groups. So I just, you know, I'm hoping that when it comes to finalizing things, that will be added, right?
And
Yeah.
that, I think the team recognized that as well, and they felt like there was a lot of, some heaviness in some of this other work, and that's why they created a whole unit on the contributions and celebrations.
Yeah.
That was not in the original plan as they were working, and then as they continued to review it, they said, we need to add this as a whole unit so that people recognize that.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that's really great about this course is that the law specifically gives us the ability to do that. Another thing that I noticed is, you know, there are some things in the model curriculum that I actually think are inappropriate. There, in the section on Jewish Americans, there's a discussion of conditional whiteness, and I'm Jewish. There's no other place in the curriculum that talks or labels people as conditionally white, and so I really have a big objection.
What does that even mean?
I read the definition, but I don't know. And so, you know, I'm uncomfortable approving something where I think that's going to be taught. So I don't know, you know, if, I guess it would be my hope that we had a little more time and we could see a little bit more in detail of what will be taught, because that gives me concern. And then also just with the model, you know, I think it also kind of fails to provide multiple perspectives in a comprehensive way, and I know that you're going to be addressing that, but I do want to flag it because it's the only time I can. Martin Luther King Jr. isn't mentioned in the model curriculum, and I feel like that's an omission. There's just a lot there. So, you know, I think Governor Newsom said when he vetoed the first model curriculum, he said, you know, in California, we don't tolerate our diversity, we celebrate it, and that should be reflected in our high school curriculum, and that the curriculum should achieve balance, fairness, and be inclusive of all. And I know that being in Benicia, we can do that, and I know that that's the intent. But, you know, as a trustee, I just feel like I need to have more information or, you know, assurance that especially that Jewish American conditional whiteness wouldn't be taught, for me to approve it. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I think you guys have done a great job with adding the celebrations. I really do. That's exactly the kind of thing, you know, the tough looking that I like, yeah.
And I think Ms. Kleinschmidt said this last time as well. This is a semester-long course. There are so many lessons that there's no way. So what's listed in here are samples of lessons pulled that match the particular unit. But I don't believe that a teacher, if they're really going deep in this work, is going to be able to do all of them. Even the ones listed, the intent wasn't that they would get through all of those lessons, because there's not a way to do that in a one semester class.
In the model lessons, were those comprehensive? I can't imagine.
What do you mean
or in the, I've lost my words, so,
It's okay.
the,
Is it curriculum or lesson?
in the model curriculums, in the ethnic study model curriculum that Amy is talking about, those are not usually comprehensive as to the whole curriculum.
Correct, they have sample lessons, and they have,
Exactly.
so what will be different about this course than US history? So US history, we look at, we have our standards, so everything is based on the standards, even this course. And then we'll go to textbook companies and we'll vet several textbooks and we'll purchase one. There isn't an ethnic studies textbook. And so what the state has provided and vetted is, I didn't count, but a lot of lessons. And so, and other resources. On the state website, there's resources, UC Davis has resources, UC Berkeley, and there's additional lessons that all meet the needs of the model curriculum. Because the other part is it's supposed to be based on who's sitting in your classroom, and so there's the opportunity to trade out, if you will, based on what's happening and who's in your classroom, as long as we're sticking to our course description, the standards, the intent of the unit.
Thank you for that clarification. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this?
I do. Thank you, Dr. Beatson, for meeting with me and sharing me. You did a lot of really great work prior to this. I know this has been coming down the pipeline for some time. So thank you for everything that you've done and the outreach in the community that you've done to just ask questions and ask for feedback. I think that that's really great. One thing that's sitting with me, and I know that I've shared this with you too, is we're in the Bay Area. This is home to sort of ethnic studies, right? And this is an area that I think that we can do really good at. And when I read the course outline, I know that there's intent and expectations from our collective group to talk about the LGBTQA+ community, maybe our Arab Americans or our Middle Eastern. There's intent that we would talk about that and be inclusive, but it's not on paper. And that's one thing that makes me a little bit nervous, that we're not actually putting it on paper that it should be discussed, or that, and I feel like maybe the way that it's written, maybe we need to maybe not give so many of the suggested lessons to narrow it down like that, but talk broadly and make sure that we're pointing out that we are going to talk about this community, we are going to do this. So that's what I'm thinking right now, and just wanting to ensure that this course provides our 11th and 12th graders the ability to have this conversation amongst each other, and I appreciate it's with a credentialed teacher, to really have these critical skills that are going to last them once they graduate from our schools.
So where do we stand now? So are we thinking about tabling this? Are we moving to
able to do that?
approve?
I'd like to know what that means to our timeline.
So, we have students who are ready to sign up, or will be signing up for classes, and so we'd like to be able to have this as an offering for them to choose for an elective, because it's also a time where we're trying a new course and we can make some adjustments as needed. And the other piece to consider is all of our courses at Benicia, or I shouldn't say all, we strive that all of our courses at Benicia High School are approved through the UC CSU portal, and what that means is the UC CSU, we have to submit the course outline, they review it, and they determine whether or not it would qualify for one of their A to G courses to be accepted if students were to apply. And so for students to apply to a UC or CSU, they have to meet different criteria. For us, it's graduation requirements. For UC, CSU, it's A to G, and they'll tell you need this many A courses, this many B courses, different subjects. And so we have that window opens in February. We get faster results from them if we're at the beginning of the window than if we wait later in the year. So master scheduling needs to happen. Course Now I lost my word.
Approval?
No, course selection, sorry. Course selection, master schedule, UC approval needs to happen. And I think the different communities, there are 4 that are required by the state, and that is built in. And then in the lessons that we pick is when we identify the other ethnic groups. And then the LGBTQ plus community is woven throughout. It's not an ethnic group in and of itself. And we are required by another law called the FAIR Act to ensure that all of those perspectives, no matter what we're teaching, are brought to the forefront and taught. So regardless of whether it's even in history.
So this discussion of tabling it, what would we be looking for in tabling it? What would be the concept behind that?
So it depends if there's a motion, if we have a motion. There are a couple of things that can happen according to Rosenberg's rules of order. And that is, one, somebody can make a motion to approve, somebody can make a motion to table on further consideration, and someone can make a motion to not approve, right?
I think structurally, I understand the concept of tabling, but I think what I'm looking for is, if we do table this, what are we hoping to get out of tabling it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably the person who should
Yeah.
speak to that. And I struggled with that because I understand where we are in the process, and I understand how much work has gone into it. I think for me, if we were to table it, what I'd like to see is more specificity about what would be taught. Because right now, the model curriculum is it's gigantic. And, there's a ton of lessons in I'm using this term because the model uses it, but the very, very broad Asian American lesson. And I hate to say that because there are so many different ethnic groups within that umbrella, including Arab Americans are included in there. So I guess for me to be able to approve it, I would like to see more specificity and more detail about the lessons that are actually going to be used. Because, if I don't need to worry about the conditional whiteness aspects of the Jewish part being taught, then that makes me feel better. It makes me want to support it more. If I'm able to see that we have balance in terms of hitting the different objectives, history, culture, celebrations, and struggles, I'd like to see balance with that, so that not just one group isn't highlighted with contributions, but we have contributions from all groups. And I mean, I know that, I would benefit from knowing, I don't know a lot of contributions from some of the groups. I think that it's really important to get the information out there because there are contributions. I was heartened today to see on social media there was a picture of 2 students from the ethnic studies table at the high school fair. And they had a poster of all these different notable figures. And just looking, based on my own site, I could see that there is inclusion of a lot of contributions. So, but what I'd like to see, if we table it, is more specificity. And the reason I'm asking for that is because this is, there's lawsuits right now, and I just want to be careful that we're doing, and I'm not saying we're not, but I can't approve it until I see that we've done a really detailed view and that we've got like.
Would you like to make a motion?
I don't think we're done discussing that.
So, well, would you like to make a motion?
I would, but I want Mark, if Mark has something to say, I don't want to.
Just, Leslie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I respect where you're at on all that. I was under the impression that this is like the most general level, like a beginning general level, and the specificity would come later with the syllabus. And the concept I was thinking of, like a middle ground, would be who's going to end up developing the syllabus?
So you're absolutely right. The think of the course outline is like the framework. It's the bumpers. It's the general, here are the standards, here are the units in broad strokes, in all of the course outlines that are approved. And then the specificity comes in with the syllabus, which is developed by the department and with the administration, because that will potentially change over time as things develop, and it doesn't have to come back to the board each time. It would be in the lesson planning, just like teachers use their professional judgment day in and day out to plan lessons to that detail. But that typically isn't in a course outline which comes to get approved. These are the parameters, if you will, or the bumpers of what that course will be. And it's also in a format that is accepted by the UCCSU. So they tell us what the information is that they need to approve. And that's actually one of the other real reasons for a course outline, which you really only see at the high school level, is so that we can send it to the college and say, if kids take this class, will it count for eligibility purposes for your A to G? And so that's one of the real purposes for this.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Theoretically, could Amy be a part of the syllabus? Could she be a part of that with the teacher? Like,
I don't want to overstep or.
that's why I was
yeah.
asking, because this is uncharted.
Yeah.
But just to alleviate, like maybe if you're because it seemed to me like all the things you're asking for would be that next level after you approve the course outline. Then the syllabus would be, and the specificity you're looking for would come at the next step, unless I'm wrong, which I quite often am.
I think that's not part of our,
Okay.
it's not
I was
part of
just
our
throwing
purview.
I appreciate-
spitballing.
Yeah.
Spitballing.
Yeah.
The what, not that. And
I can definitely share your concern as the teachers are developing that, and that is, I don't know, when I read the sample lesson on that, I don't know how big a piece that is, and if it would even come up.
yeah,
As a
no, I totally get it, and I don't want to be a stick in the mud or anything.
But later, I want you to explain to me situational whiteness.
I printed it.
I'm super curious as to what that means.
It's conditional.
Conditional whiteness. I'm
Yeah.
very curious.
And normally I think that this usually we have a textbook, right? And we can look and we can go, and Stephanie or Ice can say, we teach this, but we don't teach this. And she does that. Like, she will do that. And so for me at this point, I think I'm uncomfortable approving it based on the model lessons that are included alone. So, I mean, so for me, I would love to see, I would love to have staff tell us more, include more lessons, give more specificity, so, yeah.
And that comes, in some ways, it's a chicken and an egg, because
Right.
they need the guidelines to know what they're going to go then develop in terms of lesson plans and syllabus. We can't necessarily do that before we know the bumpers.
Yeah, I know, it's a weird thing. Can they take the, what they currently have and add to it, or amend it, or somehow? Because just based on so this is where my annoying lawyer brain goes in. Like, I feel like I have to like, this is what I'm being given, and so if I approve it, then I've approved it, and there's no wiggle room. So I think in my perfect world, for me to give it 100% Amy Hirsch approval, I would like to see more specificity about what is not being taught and maybe what would be taught.
And that, I think I'm almost like opposite, but in agreement with you in the sense of, I feel like there needs to be more leeway in the guiding lessons and key assessments, and more in like that description to kind of narrow it to then allow the flexibility for the teachers to create that syllabus. So I understand where you're coming from, but I think we both have two different approaches to it. And I just want to advocate, for you, Dr. Beatson, like, I appreciate everything going through the portal and making sure we're doing this. For me, this class is different than like our, and I know you feel this way too, like math and English, right? This is a class that's going to help our students be better citizens and be better global citizens. And that goes right back to our vision. And so really thinking through what this class could give our graduates.
So, we have a motion.
If we tabled it, how do we say, like, we'd like to bring this back to Dr. Beatson to make some tweaks? I mean, what would the options for us be?
Well, I think the options would be, I mean, we've heard your feedback, so I think that if you made that motion and that's what you wished, we would take it back and take a look at the outline, and you would direct us to bring it back to a future board meeting.
Okay.
Like I said, I totally respect where you're at. Like you said, the chicken and the egg. I mean, it feels like this is the most general aspect, and the specificity comes later. Like I said, I worry if we table this, are we going to put ourselves behind the 8 ball for the process?
But put ourselves behind the process of having it as a course now, or for the mandatory graduation requirement?
We had put in, what we had decided last time was that it would be an elective now. So our teachers have worked really hard to put this together. They're very excited to begin this course. And so it depends on how quickly they can get back together. We can get the feedback that you're looking for to put in here to be able to be offered next year.
We did agree to that time. I remember
Could that be
we added that.
ready by the next board meeting?
It's, remember, a team worked on this. We had a couple of administrators, several teachers, not at all at the same site. So we'd have to find some time for them to come back together to do some more research for what you're looking for in the course outline.
I respect where you're at. I am going to move that we do approve the ethnic studies course outline, because for me personally, I think these are things that could be worked out in later steps, and I don't want to put us behind, especially since we already agreed that this would be a course that we're offering. So that is an official motion to approve the course outline. And I understand if you know.
I'm going to second that, and the reason I'm going to second it, and I really see where you're at.
Oh, absolutely.
No, I don't take
I
it
really do, but I also have a pretty good understanding of how adopting curriculum works, and that we have these guidelines from the state, but we don't have a textbook. And so there's a large process that goes into it. And since there is more, there can be more input as we go forward. It's not like having a textbook that you just say, we're going to do boom, 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 boom. We can approve this outline and then add or subtract, but we can, teachers can really look at it, and Dr. Beatson can come back with us with those. So I am seconding the motion.
Can I ask a question before we take a vote? Will there be an opportunity to go back and forth? Like, say it hits the ground running and there issues crop up. Can parents, can the community, can we come and say, you know, this is being taught? And is there a way to have that address concerns?
Always, always. And as this gets developed into a syllabus and they're identifying for this next semester, next year, this is what the course is going to be. Parents can come in and look at the materials. The lovely thing about this is everything's online, so we can direct them, like, these are the pieces that have been picked. So that can happen at any time. If there's concerns, you know, we would do the chain of command. They would talk to the teacher and talk to the principal. And if it was I don't want to say the word global, that's not the word I'm trying to come up with, but
We know what you mean.
pretty big concern. Thank you. You know, we absolutely could look at that again.
Can I ask one? I want to ask one more question. And Oh goodness, now it's my turn to lose my train of thought. As we are progressing in the year, the second year of the course, can we come back to this course outline and modify it and change it? Okay.
Yeah, and I think that you could do that. I think we have to be careful because I would assume the state has certain things that they want to make
Oh,
sure that you cover. As long as we don't take out anything
No,
that is
yeah.
required,
Yeah.
then we'd be good to go.
Yeah, and I think there might be more developments from the state from just what I'm reading.
Yeah.
So we might have to come back at some point.
Cool.
And eventually, we bring course outlines back for updating
Oh, yeah,
just on a
we've-
regular
we've
basis
done that,
because
yeah.
things have
Yeah,
changed.
things change.
Yep.
Okay, let's
And
move.
we, Mrs. Martinez. All those in favor?
Aye. I'm a nay. Nay or no?
So we have 3.
How about nay and?
Nay and no.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
If we go
Yeah, no
on,
worries. Thank you. Ed, you had some excellent points.
Thank you.
yes.
Yeah, I do want to encourage that we do bring this back, because I would like to dig into that.
Okay, 13I, consideration and approval of high school course outline advanced PE. Dr. Beatson.
Okay, so I have another elective that's been developed with a course outline for your hopeful approval. It is a one-year course, and it is an additional PE elective. It is focused and targeted for our student athletes. It won't be closed to anyone, but it will it's kind of, think of it like an AP course. And so we allow anyone who wants to take an AP course to take that AP course, but they know going in that it's a level of rigor that they need to consider. And that's what the intent of this course is that it will be really focused on our during season and off-season athletes, and so that they can get some conditioning, weight training, nutrition. Those are all the different units you probably saw in here, and that there would be also an opportunity for some collaboration between the teacher of the course and the coaches, so that they can get some specifics about what they're hoping their athletes can do, which would help both our sports program and our student athletes.
I can speak to we're behind. Most districts have this already, and, oh yeah. And I could also tell you, knowing that, having talked to the teachers at the high school, everyone's 100% behind this.
That's good to know. My kid already added this in his course schedule, so.
Yes.
Yeah. Everyone's
Just telling
everyone's
you.
on board with this.
Yeah.
So just so you know, in the course catalog, because we had to start course selections, it will say pending approval. So they
Yeah.
know as they are looking at these,
He told me about it. I was like, oh.
Most districts have this already at their high schools.
For
It's good
decades.
to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Pitt's had it forever.
It's really good to see. Is there, can I get a motion to approve advanced PE for?
I move that we approved advanced PE for athletic performance.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
13J, consideration and approval of Benicia High School course outlines, career and college planning.
I got myself all out of order here. I know, poor Trudy.
Take your time.
So this is a one-semester elective, and it is really based on the Get Focused course. So if you remember at the last board meeting when the new graduation requirements were adopted, because we have ethnic studies rolling in, and then in 2031, personal finance rolling in as state-required graduation requirements, the board elected to remove Get Focused from our 9th grade as a local graduation requirement. Ms. Kleinschmidt, in talking with students, there were some interest in kind of a shortened, abridged version of that course at the upper level around college and career planning. And so that's what this course is. It's really based on the Get Focused course, but it's abridged and for 11th or 10th, 11th, or 12th graders. And I can go through the course if you would like, if you have questions, but it is really that course rolled up as an elective for one semester. And it would only run, of course, if there were enough students to take it.
And who's the teacher?
I don't know who would be teaching it at this point.
Is it okay, so we don't know if it's a counselor or if it's a,
Oh, it wouldn't be a counselor, it would be a credentialed teacher.
great,
What is, when you talk about enough students, what's our floor?
The class loading is 33, and they think they run the schedule at 30 or 31 to see how well it shakes out. And typically, we won't run a class if it doesn't have at least 25. At least that's been our past practice, and so, you know, we'll have to look at what that looks like.
I was just curious about the floor. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve career and college planning course outline as presented.
I'll second that.
Ms. Martinez?
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And 13K, consideration and approval of Benicia High School course outlines integrated math 2A.
Okay, thank you. I realize I probably should have put K and L together. Our math department, along with Ms. Kleinschmidt, has worked to develop an alternative to straight Math 2. And so remember, our board policy and graduation requirement is students need to take 2 years of mathematics through Math 1, and then they've always had an option to continue with Math 2, Math 3, and on to some potential APs, or after Math 1 to take personal finance. And with personal finance rolling in as a graduation requirement in a few years, we needed to look at other alternatives for students who may not quite be ready to take Math 2 as is. And so we have Math 1A, B, which means students take that first year of math over 2 years. So it slows the same course, same textbook, same standards, but it just slows the course down, and we're doing the same thing, we're proposing the same thing for Math 2. So students that want to stay on that Math 1A, or 1, 2, 3 track could take Math 2A for a year, and then the following year, and I'll say this again when we get to L, they would take the other half of it as 2B, and it would count for a second year of math.
If it matters to anyone, for transparency's sake, you know my wife's a math teacher at the high school, and they are behind this.
And thank you for finding an alternative to personal finance. I think that's really important. I love the idea of slowing down, or, you know, teaching in two sections. Math 2, makes sense.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve integrated math 2A.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And,
Just vote on 2B since we already.
yes,
Yeah.
how about that?
Did you want to?
Is there,
Do I,
did you
so
want to say?
the next one is the second half of that
Yeah.
course.
Okay.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move that we approve integrated math 2B course outline.
I'll second. Aye. And 13M, consideration approval of program specialist, special education, the special education job description. Dr. Jennings, you are.
Good evening, President Grubbs and Board Trustees. This item before you for consideration, this one and item N, we have a current job description, and we are separating out the two pieces. In the past, those two, the program specialist for special education and the behaviorists were combined into one position. In working with the special education leadership team, they have determined they prefer to have them separated. They're very different skill sets for those two positions. So you'll see that both job descriptions are on here for approval as separate job descriptions.
So this will be two separate FTEs as opposed to one, correct?
Yes, and currently we have had this position filled in the past for the program specialist. What we haven't had is the behaviorist. We've been contracting out the behaviorist services. So we currently don't have someone in that position.
Right. So there's we have people in the position, so we're not adding positions.
No, it is not an add of position.
That's what I was getting at.
Yes.
And if we're contracting out, if you can hire somebody within the district, it's always cheaper. Than contracting out.
Right, so this is not an addition.
It's not.
Okay, that's what I was going for. Thank you.
And these,
motion?
and these positions work district-wide?
Yes, they do. The program specialist has been integral in working at the school sites with especially our new special education teachers, providing them the support that they need.
I had a community member reach out to me to just mention some thoughts to include inclusion techniques within the job description, as well as maybe thinking about that as professional development, and particularly inclusion as professional development. So I want to just put that out, so we're talking about that.
That's a great idea. My colleague over in Ed Services will work on the gen ed side of that, I'm sure.
Is there any other questions?
Well, I just want to state, my comment was not towards it was really sort of like that this person knows the techniques and that they have skills of inclusion. So just to make sure that I'm saying that correctly, that it really is a skill set that we are advocating for these roles, as well as professional development moving forward.
I appreciate the clarification.
Go ahead. No, I was going to make a motion, but.
Please.
I move that we approve the program specialist job description.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All righty. So, our next regular board
One more. We have to.
we have one more. Yes.
The behaviors.
13N, the updated job description that supports the continued implementation of high-quality services for students with behavioral needs.
My comments from M go to N too.
Thank you. And this, and like we said earlier, this is currently a contracted position.
I move that we approve the behaviors job description.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So now we come to the adjournment of our meeting. Our next regular board meeting is Thursday, February 6th, 2025. And the Benicia High School open house is going on right now. So thank you all, and we'll see you on the 6th.